Welcome to the Mills Knows Bills podcast. My name is Mills Bender. I'm the founder and CEO of Mills Knows Bills, where we help you, variable income earners, master your money in 90 days. The point of this podcast is to help you make the most of your fluctuating income so you can stop living paycheck to paycheck, pay off your debt twice as fast, and get on track toward reaching both your personal and professional financial goals. Now, as I continue to grow my team here at MKB, you may have some guest hosts from time to time. However, our goal does not change. Whether we're bringing in a guest speaker, having an in-depth conversation about our personal finances, or talking about a topic that is of interest to you, our goal is to help you master your money. Welcome back to another episode of the Mills Knows Bills podcast, where we answer your burning financial questions. I'm your host, as well as CEO of MKB, Mills Bender. And with us today, I say us because CFO Jen is also with us today, but Kenneth. I couldn't.
Oh my God.
Kenny.
Whoa. Am I in trouble?
Kenneth. No. We enjoyed having you on the podcast so much last season
enjoyed
that we
being here.
wanted you to come back again.
I will be here as often as you'd like.
I've
got lots of questions.
Every season, please.
Beautiful. We'll make an appearance.
In all seriousness, though, you had a great question for me earlier this week, and I just said, please come on the podcast and ask it so Jen and I can answer for you. But before we get into that, if you guys don't know the one and only Kenney Baez, please take a moment, introduce yourself.
Yeah. So again, I'm Kenney Baez, and I own a wildlife removal and pest control business here in Florida, Freedom Wildlife. We do protection of your home and property and business, keeping critters out, sealing up entry points, doing repairs, all that fun stuff here in the beautiful state of Florida. It's fun stuff.
And I can attest firsthand, he is the professional critter getter at my own house. In fact, I found a cockroach this morning, but luckily it hath died. It was disgusting. Anyway,
we can help.
What's your question? What can Jen and I answer for you today?
Obviously my business, we use fleet vehicles, right? We have vehicles out in the field, and I was kind of, looking at the mileage of my truck the other day, 140,000 miles. I bought it about 3 years ago. So it's getting towards that time where like it's either trade or lose the truck value and keep driving it into the ground. And my question was, from a financial standpoint, what does it look like when you lease versus own? And would it be beneficial to maybe lease the vehicle versus owning the vehicle? So you still got a financial payment if you finance a vehicle, you still have a lease payment if you lease a vehicle, and then you can trade it in after 4 years. So you wear and tear it, and then you trade it up per se, and your payments kind of fluctuate probably around the same price. So just wondering what your take on was that.
Well, I think I would do a little bit more research first before just giving you a straight out answer. Sure. And Jen might have additional questions for you to kind of work through as well. But my initial gut is I would look at what the interest rate is for financing right now. Okay. I would look at if you have a good business credit score, maybe we need to work on getting your business credit score up if that could bring it down and then bring the payments down. If you're leasing it, sometimes there's lease contracts available where they'll cover the oil changes and certain levels of repairs. And if that's something that you typically do a lot of with 140,000 miles over
every
4
month.
years, that's a lot. That's a lot. That adds up too. Right. So I would look at all other hidden or not so hidden costs that go into it to make sure that we are giving you the full scope of picture. Okay. My initial gut instinct, let's just say you have a great credit score, the payments are exactly the same. If you get the benefit of having those oil changes through the lease option, I would say you might want to consider doing a lease. Yeah. Personally. Right. But if you're able to get a little bit of money back, and that little bit of money back when you sell it goes back to another financing option, and it's 6 in one, half a dozen the other in terms of the oil changes and the monthly payments, it's really just up to you. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously the cash flow, if the cash flow is there, buy the vehicle, right? Yeah. Like own it so you don't have payments and, run it into the ground. Yeah. But I guess, being upside down, early business, you get upside down really fast when you're financing vehicles. So that was more so
at the early stages, does it make sense probably to lease a vehicle initially? And yeah, I see what you're saying, interest rates. And
but the other problem though is like, you can't really wrap a leased vehicle either.
Sometimes,
and that hurts your marketing. And that's one of your hidden costs.
Sure.
You know, because a lot of people will look at as you're driving, that's how they find you.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yesterday that happened. So very common.
Right. And so if there's a way that you can track how many clients come to you through that method, there's a return on the investment of buying the car rather than just leasing it. Because let's be honest, putting a magnet on a leased vehicle, like it ain't doing much for me.
Right. Yeah.
But Jen, you're soaking this in. What are some of your thoughts that you might give Kenney?
Well, you mentioned the hidden costs, and I think that's tends to be a place where leases kind of fall. They may, like the oil changes and some of that basic maintenance, while it may be included. You also have the downside of sometimes they will tag you if you go over their mileage limit. So, and usually those are fairly low. So if you do a lot of driving,
which you do,
you may be paying way more in penalties for all of those mileage, the extra mileage that you're driving. And so before you sign a lease, I would just definitely make sure that that is something you are aware of. I do know that some leases, like they will let you wrap cars or trucks. Some of those other things that you still get the same benefit. As far as like from a financial perspective, leases are something that will actually show up on your profit and loss. So the lease payments are not like a vehicle loan where it doesn't show up on your profit and loss. So kind of depending on your tax situation, do you need it to be, do you need to be taxed on that or not? Is kind of, but on the other hand, you're not actually paying on an asset that you will own. So it's not on your balance sheet. If you're looking to sell your business in the next year or two, having a bunch of leases does nothing for you.
Oh, wow. So okay. Good to know.
Kind of, you need to like factor in all of these things about, where you are with your business, what your cash flow is like. Like, let's say, for instance, is there a possibility that you may need to sell a vehicle before your lease is up? Sometimes leases make you pay to get out of them, whereas just a straight loan you're just selling it, right? It's not something that you have to take into account. So I don't have a straight answer for you as far as which one is best. Right.
Yeah, but it is a hard answer just to have a straight up, or hard question to have a straight up answer to. Yeah. But I think where we're really coming from is like, it's different depending on where you're at. And if that's something that you want to like, here, Jen, here's my financials. You tell me what I should do specifically. We'll do that with you. But also a lot of business owners will take the answer that we will give them based off their situation right now and think that it's their gospel forever. Right. Right. Yeah. Situations change. Yeah, exactly. Right. We might come back and say a lease is really great for you based off of your cash flow right now. Right. But that doesn't mean that 4 years from now, or even 2 years from now, we're going to give you the same answer. Yeah. So there's a lot of different factors to consider, but I think the ones that people most often forget are asterisks in that contract. Like Jen was saying, those fees for overdriving and everything, and then the hidden costs. Yeah. Yeah. No, it totally makes sense. And the main reason I was even considering leasing, there's actual leasing companies that work with fleets. And I know for a fact they let you wrap and they design the vehicle toward whatever your industry is, specifically like pest control as well. So, I just figured if it's not an asset, I think that's kind of what makes the decision for me, because what's a business if it's not an asset, right? Like you need to be building your business to be an asset, so that it is valuable. And whether you're trying to sell it or franchise it or whatever, if there's no value there, that it totally makes sense. I would definitely, I guess I'm making the right decision on financing because I want assets. So that's good.
Another point to that, so let's say that you wanted to go get a loan. The more assets that your business has, the better. You may be more likely to get that loan. The bank likes assets to loan against. Collateral. So that's just another consideration. Okay. Good to know. Thank you. Bottom line, if you or somebody listening / watching to this podcast want to know the specific answer for your business, their business, we can schedule free consultation, analyze it. Perfect. Give you the exact answers, letting you feel more confident in that decision. But we're not going to say, let's look at your profit and loss on this podcast. That's right.
That's right.
No, confidentiality here.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I don't mind. I'm a sharer.
I know you're sharing.
Y'all want to see it? It's ugly. Okay. But
that's too funny. Do you have any follow-up questions?
I think that's great. I was just really concerned about the wear and tear and then losing the value and being upside down. But I guess you just formulate a plan to try to pay it off quicker. And I think that's probably the long game, which a lot of us young business owners struggle with, especially when, I consider them liabilities at this point, because it is a liability at this point. It breaks down or I lose it, unless I've got insurance or gap or whatever, then it's lost to me, and I'm making payments on a vehicle that I can't drive or utilize in the field. And I've got to go finance another vehicle. But, you can always trade things in and there's other ways to do it. But that was main thing is just seeing if leasing was even a viable option. I mean, I'm sure if my circumstances were different, then maybe it is. But the wear and tear and not being an asset are definitely big factors.
Yeah.
So,
and
for me,
if you are covering the cost of the oil changes and everything, because you are financing the vehicle, when you get to a point where you can set aside money in high yield savings for repairs, oil changes, things like that, you get to get used to paying a higher payment towards that car.
Right.
And when it gets to the point where you need to sell it, trade it in, whatever it may be, you're used to already setting aside more. You can use that towards the new payment, a down payment, if you have a little bit of a lump sum. So it's giving you're buying yourself options.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Makes sense. Yeah.
Jen, anything else you want to add before we end?
I don't think so. I think we've pretty much ran the, pros and cons of leasing a vehicle, but it all comes down to personal preference and what your current situation is.
I agree.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining me in person.
Yeah.
I always like having somebody here.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you, Jen, for joining us virtually. I appreciate you taking the time to help me answer Kenney's question. And for anybody who's interested in learning more about what their situation should look like, whether they should finance or lease a vehicle, feel free to reach out to Jen directly at jen@millsknowsbills.com. If you are looking for critter getter specialties here in the Central Florida area, how can somebody reach out to you, Kenney?
So you can find us at freedomwildlife.com or Facebook, Freedom Wildlife FL, or Instagram. We even have a YouTube channel. Not really doing much with that yet, but we'll get there. But we do everything. Bugs, critters, we do it all. So if you got bugs bugging you, give us a shout. We'll be happy to help.
I want like 12
I have to keep bringing that up.
I love it.
We need to do it. Yeah.
Thank y'all for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.